Former President Pranab Mukherjee dies at the age of 84. He was admitted to Delhi's Army Hospital on the 10th of August for the removal of a brain clot. The Indian economy contracts by 24% in the first quarter as COVID-19 takes a toll. This is the worst economic contraction on record and sharper than the cnbc TV 18 poll of a 20% drop. India's COVID-19 death toll crosses 64,000 to become the third highest in the world after the US and Brazil. COVID cases rise by 78,500 to over 36.2 lakh. The recovery rate rises to 76.63%. A single-day recoveries come in above 60,000 for the fourth day running. Reserve Bank steps in with many steps to cool yields, announces more Operation Twist. Term repo operations of 1 lakh crore also increases the amount of bonds that can be held to maturity. Bankers see a huge rise in bond prices tomorrow. Punjab and Chhattisgarh join West Bengal, Kerala, Delhi and Puducherry in rejecting the centre's proposal, asking states to borrow to bridge the GST compensation shortfall. Punjab calls it a breach of constitutional assurance. West Bengal's finance minister terms the centre's decision an act of fraud. Chinese troops violate consensus and carry out provocative movements on the southern bank of the Pangong Tso to change the status quo. Indian troops preempt the move, take steps to strengthen their positions. Indian army sources say there has been no physical clash between the two sides. Sharp sell-off on Dalal Street as the Sensex and Nifty tumbled over 2%, escalating tensions with China and the looming September 1 deadline for the new margin system keep investors on the edge. This is the biggest one-day fall in the last 3 months. Future group stocks rally in a weak market. This after Reliance Industries agrees to shell out over 24,700 crore rupees to acquire retail and related businesses. Adani Enterprises enters into a deal with GVK Group to take over the Mumbai International Airport and the Navi Mumbai Airport project. Adani Airports, the holding company of the Adani Group for its airports business, signs an agreement to acquire the debt of GVK Airport developers. DIPAM Secretary Tuhin Kantapande hints that the 2 lakh crore rupee disinvestment target will need to be scaled down, says the pandemic has dealt a blow to strategic disinvestment and Air India's stake sale plans, adds that a 26% stake sale in BEML is coming soon. The Supreme Court imposes a 1 rupee fine on lawyer Prashant Bhushan after holding him guilty of contempt for tweets criticizing Chief Justice Bobde and the court. Bhushan faces a 3-month in jail and a ban for practicing for 3 years if he refuses to pay the 1 rupee penalty. Bhushan says he reserves the right to appeal but pays the 1 rupee. With just over 60 days left for the US presidential elections, racial tensions flare up once again in Oregon and Wisconsin. Democratic challenger Joe Biden and Portland's mayor accuse President Trump of fanning the flames. Well, those are the top stories that we're tracking. This is Reporter's Diary. I'm Shireen Bhan. Well, after battling for life for over 20 days, former President of India Pranab Mukherjee is no more. He died at the Army Hospital in the capital. He was admitted to the hospital on the 10th of August for surgery to remove a clot in his brain, following which he had developed lung infection and had a renal dysfunction as well. Earlier today, the Army Hospital had said that his condition had worsened after a septic shock due to his lung infection. Making the announcement moments ago, his son Abhijit Mukherjee tweeted, and I quote, "With a heavy heart, this is to inform you that my father, Pranab Mukherjee, has just passed away in spite of the best efforts of doctors of the RR hospitals and prayers, duas and prathanas from people throughout India. I thank all of you with folded hands." End of quote. That's Abhijit Mukherjee there announcing the demise of Pranab Mukherjee. Well, my colleague Lata also here with me. Lata, former president, veteran Congress leader, many-time finance minister, a man who's seen the ins and outs of Indian politics as well as the Indian economy. Really an end of an era.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think he rose into fame after 1969, when Indira Gandhi had split the Congress, and his meteoric rise, maybe controversially, was during the emergency. But he became inducted into the cabinet at that time after the 1971 victory of Mrs. Gandhi, the landslide victory. And then in 1982, he was Minister of Finance. That was the first time between 82 and 84, in the return of Mrs. Indira Gandhi in the 81 election, that Pranab Mukherjee became a very senior person in the cabinet, maybe the senior most, and that is why the finance portfolio. During the Rajiv Gandhi time, he did not have any position, probably a cooling off. I think the only disappointment for Pranab Mukherjee in his career was he was never Prime Minister. He was almost there several times, so was not there in the Rajiv Gandhi cabinet, re-inducted by the Narasimha Rao cabinet in 1991. When he was made head of Planning Commission, and thereafter it is in 2004 that he really comes into his own as a senior statesman, the senior most since Narasimha Rao was no more. And then he went on to have, if you remember, I think he had Defence, External Affairs, and then finally in 2009, when Chidambaram was brought into Home, he became the Finance Minister. So held all three important positions between 2004. The important part about Mr. Pranab Mukherjee in 2004 is he got elected to the Lok Sabha. He stood for elections and he got elected. He was not inducted through the Rajya Sabha. So that is why he became really powerful in 2004, held all the important ministries, External Affairs, Defence and Finance in 2009 to 2011. Of course, the Prime Ministership eluded him. And then, of course, became president. You would remember, I think his 82-84 budgets were also very famous, as were, of course, the budgets after 2009, which was in response to the global financial crisis.
Absolutely, and of course the slew of stimulus measures that were announced as part of the budgets and the measures taken by the Pranab Mukherjee administration in the Finance Ministry in North Block to deal with the global financial crisis. And of course the big one, the retrospective tax, which was brought in a budget that was presented by Pranab Mukherjee. But here's a look back at the life and times of the former president, Congress veteran and the many-time Finance Minister Pranab Mukherjee.
The UPA's troubleshooter, the man who could not become Prime Minister. Citizen Mukherjee, as his Twitter handle names him, Pranab Mukherjee leaves behind well-wishers cutting across party lines. Born in 1935 in Merathi in West Bengal, Pranab Da, as he was affectionately called, got his break in politics in 1969 when he was elected to the Rajya Sabha. He soon rose to become Indira Gandhi's blue-eyed boy and finance minister in her cabinet. But his political career was eclipsed after his fallout with Rajiv Gandhi and the Congress party after Indira Gandhi's assassination in 1984. The story goes that when Pranab Da was asked by Rajiv as to who would take over in the event of a sitting PM's death, he replied, the senior-most minister. Since Pranab was the senior-most minister, this was read as him staking claim to the top job. Pranab was overlooked by Rajiv Gandhi, who became the PM. He was not included in the cabinet. He then formed his own party, the Rashtriya Samajwadi Congress. The party was merged with the Congress in 1989 after a truce with Rajiv Gandhi. Pranab Mukherjee played a key role in shaping Sonia as a politician. His advice was something she could never do without. And whenever the Congress was in trouble, Chalo Pranab Da ke ghar was the refrain. But when the UPA came to power in 2004, Sonia chose Manmohan Singh and not Pranab as the PM. Sources say her advisors told her he had ambitions and was not to be trusted. Stories of Pranab arguing with Manmohan Singh during cabinet meetings are well known. 2004 also marked another milestone in Pranab's life. He contested and won on a Lok Sabha ticket from Jangirpur. The man, considered an armchair neta, proved everyone wrong.
It's time now for us to head to a break, but when we return, there's a lot more news. Remember, the Q1 GDP data is also out. India witnessing a contraction of almost 24%. That and more when we get back.
उम्मीदों को हक है उड़ान भरने का, तो लाइफ गोल्स को हक है लाइफ से जुड़ने का, सपनों को हक है सच होने का, और हम सबको हक है एक बेहतर जिंदगी का। तो आज ही म्यूचुअल फंड की SIP में इन्वेस्ट करें। UTI म्यूचुअल फंड, हक एक बेहतर जिंदगी का।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
Hello, MG. Open sunroof.
Pardon?
When's the last time anyone said that to you? Please open sunroof. MG Hector. It's a human thing.
Where you see India today, what kind of recovery are you factoring in?
Post-pandemic, the fundamental shifts that we'll see is the advent and the acceleration of digital work.
What you need is a steady recovery and not a zigzag recovery.
Economy is actually operating at multiple speeds. Demand in several parts of the economy is already started picking up.
You've got to finally find a big source of local capital. It's there in India, and you need to unlock that.
So I'm very bullish of liquidity coming in.
The way Indian companies absorb technology is a big competitive advantage.
India's top business leaders speak to the leader in business news. Bullion index futures reflect sectoral performance. Cash settled at expiry. No tender or delivery margins.
Well, here's the latest in the GST stalemate. The states of West Bengal, Punjab, Chhattisgarh, Puducherry and Delhi have clarified that they are not in favour of states borrowing and have rejected the centre's options. The Punjab government has rejected both options given by the finance minister, calling them a breach of constitutional assurance. Timsy Jaipuria caught up with Delhi's Deputy Chief Minister and member of the GST Council, Manish Sisodia, on the Delhi government's position. Here's his takeaway.
What is your view on the GST issue? Today there was an informal video conference also with a few states where they wanted to decide what should be the future strategy.
I think सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट पूरी तरह से कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल ऑब्लिगेशन से बचने की कोशिश कर रही है, भागने की कोशिश कर रही है इसमें, और इसीलिए उन्होंने जो सो कॉल्ड दो ऑप्शंस दिए हैं, दे आर नॉट ऑप्शंस एट ऑल। आप कह रहे हो कि हम मतलब जो लॉस हुआ है राज्यों को जीएसटी इम्प्लीमेंटेशन की वजह से, उसको हम देंगे नहीं। आप राज्यों को अगर वो चाहिए तो लोन ले लो और बाद में फिर सेस से चुका देंगे, ये बड़ा, और उसका इंटरेस्ट भी आप खुद दे लो, ये तो कोई ऑप्शन नहीं है। सो बेसिकली ये इलीगल मूव है सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट के बिहाफ पे, टोटली इलीगल मूव है। कोई भी सेंसिटिव लॉ अबाइडिंग गवर्नमेंट ये नहीं सोच सकती है कि कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में जो लिखा हुआ है, एक्ट में जो लिखा हुआ है, और इस एक्ट को बनाते वक्त मिनट्स में जो लिखा गया, अश्योर किया गया कि साहब सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट चिंता करेगी, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट एक तरह से गारंटी ले रही है कि हम आपको 14% तक का कंपनसेशन देंगे। तो ये अब केंद्र सरकार को मानना चाहिए। वो अनकॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल काम कर रहे हैं अगर वो इससे भाग रहे हैं तो।
आप जैसा कह रहे हैं कि कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल ब्रीच ऑफ ट्रस्ट है इस पर्टिकुलर इशू में, तो आज जो वीडियो कॉन्फ्रेंस हुई जिसमें कुछ राज्य थे, आप भी थे उसमें, तो उसमें क्या डिसाइड किया फाइनली? आज हम कुछ करीब 6 राज्यों के फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर्स मिले थे, और ये जो सेंटर के ऑप्शंस आए हैं इन पर सबकी एकमत से यही राय थी कि साहब इलीगल है, टोटली इलीगल है, अनकॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल है सरकार का ये, केंद्र सरकार का ये मूव, और ये कहीं से भी एक्सेप्टेबल नहीं हो सकता है। राज्यों के साथ केंद्र इस तरह की धोखाधड़ी ना करे, बल्कि हम समझते हैं कि कानून, हम समझते हैं कि आज देश में फाइनेंशियल स्थिति खराब है, राज्यों की भी खराब है, सेंटर की भी खराब है, तो वैसे में बोरोइंग एक ऑप्शन है, और बोरोइंग का ऑप्शन मिनट्स में भी लिखा हुआ है, लॉ में भी है, विंडोज़ दी गई हैं। तो सेंटर बोरो करे, और जीएसटी काउंसिल 5 साल बाद भी सेस इकट्ठा करना अलाउ कर सकती है। ये राज्यों में, हम राज्यों में सहमति है कि भाई जीएसटी काउंसिल को हम ये अधिकार दे सकते हैं कि 5 साल के बाद भी, 6, 7वें, 8वें साल में भी सेस इकट्ठा कर लिया जाए, सिगरेट पे, तंबाकू पे, और जितने और सिन गुड्स हैं या इस तरह की चीज़ें हैं जिन पे सेस लगाया गया है, सेस इकट्ठा करती जाए जब तक कि लोन रिपेमेंट नहीं हो जाता है। तो सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट लोन लेके राज्यों को कंपनसेशन दे, और वो लोन सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट पे ना करे,
वो लोन सेस से पे होता रहेगा सब्सिक्वेंट ईयर्स में।
तो ऐसा नहीं लगता कि अगर वो लोन कोई भी ले, आखिर बोझ तो आम जनता पे पड़ेगा, क्योंकि 5 साल के बाद सेस विंडो एक्सपायर हो रहा था जो कि 2022 में है, तो जनता को और अगले कुछ सालों के लिए सेस पे करते रहना होगा ताकि कोई भी बोरो करे उसकी रीपेमेंट हो सके।
बिल्कुल, जीएसटी का ये फेलियर है। जीएसटी में बड़े बड़े वादे किए गए थे, अभी तो कोविड है, कोविड से पहले भी जीएसटी कोई इकोनॉमी को बूम कराने में कामयाब नहीं रहा, ये एविडेंस है। राज्यों की वित्तीय हालत लगातार जीएसटी इम्प्लीमेंटेशन के बाद से डाउन ही हुई है। तो वैसे में हमें ये मानना पड़ेगा कि जीएसटी के इम्प्लीमेंटेशन से जो नुकसान हुआ है वो, क्योंकि केंद्र सरकार एक आइडिया लेके आई थी और उसने राज्यों को कहा था कि भाई आप लोग हमारे इस आइडिया को मान लीजिए और आपको कोई नुकसान होगा तो हम इसकी भरपाई करेंगे। उसमें फाइनेंशियल मैनेजमेंट राज्यों ने अपना सारा जीएसटी में डाल दिया था। आज अगर जीएसटी नहीं लागू होता तो मैं दिल्ली के फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर के रूप में, मुख्यमंत्री अरविंद केजरीवाल जी दिल्ली के चीफ मिनिस्टर के रूप में साथ बैठते और तय करते भाई इस फाइनेंशियल मैनेजमेंट को कैसे ठीक करें, अभी जो कमी पड़ रही है उसको कैसे ठीक करें। आज हमारे पास अधिकार ही नहीं है, किसी भी राज्य के पास ये अधिकार नहीं है कि फाइनेंशियल कमी, रेवेन्यू की कमी पे कुछ कर सके। आज सब कुछ जीएसटी में दिया गया, सब्ज्यूम कर दिया गया, तो फिर सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट को जिम्मेदारी लेनी ही है।
जैसा कि आपने कहा कि एक तरफ जब जिम्मेदारी ली गई थी तो अब उसको निभाने का फेलियर है सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट का। पंजाब गवर्नमेंट ने तो फॉर्मली चिट्ठी लिख के अपना रिग्रेट एक्सप्रेस कर दिया है फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर को। तमिलनाडु के सीएम ने पीएम को चिट्ठी लिख दी है कि काइंडली इंटरवीन। दिल्ली सरकार कब तक फॉर्मल अपना जवाब दे देगी?
दिल्ली सरकार भी अपना फॉर्मल जवाब दे देगी। हमारे मुख्यमंत्री जी भी चिट्ठी लिख रहे हैं और आज जब हम फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर की बात हुई थी तो कई और राज्यों के मंत्री या मुख्यमंत्रियों ने भी वित्त मंत्री, केंद्रीय वित्त मंत्री या प्रधानमंत्री जी को चिट्ठी लिखी है और उसमें सबका लबोलुबाव यही है कि साहब इस तरह कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन से मत भागिए, इलीगल काम होगा ये, और सिर्फ इसका इस साल के फाइनेंसेस पर असर पड़ेगा ऐसा नहीं है, बल्कि ओवरऑल केंद्र और राज्यों के बीच जो भरोसा है कि केंद्र सरकार ने एक बात कही और राज्य सरकारें फिर उसको मानती हैं, एक अपने कुछ राइट्स छोड़ती हैं, अपने अधिकार छोड़े, इस भरोसे पे कि केंद्र जो कह रहा है वो वादा पूरा करेगा। कल अगर कोई और स्थिति आती है, आज से 50 साल बाद भी स्थिति आती है, तो 50